welcome to another edition of Power Talk. I'm Gareth Davis, and once again I'm joined by paranormal enthusiast Mr. Reeves Cook. This week we're going to be talking about the Chew Valley Lake encounter. Rather mysterious, Reeves.
Quite very, very mysterious. And an episode that revolves around an awful lot of water.
So Chew Valley Lake, where is that? I'm not familiar with that lake.
It's a man-made reservoir. It was created back in the mid-50s, and it was basically to furnish the local city, which is 20 miles away, the city of Bristol, with fresh drinking water, basically.
So this is in the UK.
Yeah, it's actually the fifth largest artificial lake in the United Kingdom.
Okay.
The southwest of England, where I am, basically, down the bottom bit.
Oh, okay, cool.
But that's not too much about the actual lake. It's what was there before the lake appeared, before it was filled in with water. It's, as the name suggests, it's a valley. Okay. And in a valley, you get farms and villages. And there was the village of Moreton, which was situated now where the lake is.
So people actually lived there then before the...
Yeah, there was a thriving community there before it was commissioned and before it was created. Back before the 50s, there was a thriving community. There were farms, there was a village, general day-to-day life. And obviously, when it came that the area was going to be flooded and have an artificial lake created, the people obviously moved out, moved away and into other places, and it was a lot of the buildings were demolished, but the actual roads and fences and walls and stuff like that, if on some days where you have a lot of hot weather and a drought and the water goes down, you can actually still see the old roads and the old walkways that were part of the village. Wow. And you can see the remains of the foundations of the buildings.
So I'm assuming that the government came and paid everyone off, bought all their property, resettled them, and all that. I wonder what would have happened, though, because occasionally you hear these stories of people like, no, I'm not moving. I don't care. I'm not moving.
Yeah.
Well,
a lot of that happened in the Second World War as well, when they had to make room for makeshift airfields. A lot of people on farms and that were forcibly, under threat of arrest and jail, were forcibly moved
drag
off
them
their
out
land.
of their houses. It's a very sad state of affairs when it comes to that. But I'm assuming it didn't come to that in Chew Valley.
No, people were moved out, and basically, when the time was right, in the mid-50s, there was a ceremony. All the pompousness and the lake. It was created. It was flooded, and the whole valley was basically filled with water. And here it is today still. But our story or our account actually revolves around possibly what is left of the village, or possibly the abundance of water. Because as we know, in some cases where there's a lot of water, there is an increase in paranormal activity.
Right. Especially underground water, streams, and things like that.
Yeah, whether that's to do with the water and the ley lines, or something to do with the way the earth works. Who knows? We haven't got the answers. But anyway, let's skip forward. A chap. Basically, Chris, his wife Wendy, and his daughter Sam, they were on their way home one evening, and this is in the beginning of June in 1999.
Okay.
Now, they were travelling back from the city of Bristol. People are most probably familiar with Bristol, obviously, who live in England, but are out there, listeners that aren't English. To give them some idea, Bristol used to be a massive seaport, and it's one of the larger cities in the southwest of England. So, there's lots to do there, and it's got a big shopping and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I remember the train always would stop there on the way to London.
Yeah, that's right.
Was it Bristol Parkway? I always remember being on the train from Wales going up to London, and it would always stop at Bristol.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, so Chris and his wife Wendy and his daughter Sam, they were on their way home in the car, the family car, and it was quite late at night. It was dark. And they're driving along what's known as the Lake Road. Now, when I say the Lake Road, there is a road that travels around the edge of Chew Valley Lake, which is basically the scenic view, shall we say.
So you can drive around there. I was just looking at some of the pictures online. It looks really nice, actually. You know, like it is
actually a stroke residential areas where you can go there for picnics and there's tourism and you can go for walks in the woods. It's all created, but it's created as a nature reserve, and it's to give it that kind of not man-made look.
Yes.
And they're driving along, and it's quite late. And up ahead in the road, they can see their headlights are reflecting off of the cat's eyes in the road.
The little reflecting beads.
Yeah, in the middle of the road, and obviously the husband then notes that he can see a triangle of light to the side of the road on the right-hand side, and that he's trying to figure out what it is. First of all, they think it's a reflection of like a sign where the headlights catch the sign, and you get that kind of triangle reflection.
Right, yeah.
But as they get closer, they start to realise that it's not actually a sign that they're seeing; it's actually a figure of a person. And his husband, he's like, well, who's that? Is that someone in the road? Then his wife notes that she also sees the same thing, because she notes to her husband, Chris, can you see the person in the road? You don't knock them over. As they draw closer to the individual crosses in front of the car, and the headlamps light the individual. So whatever we are experiencing here, whatever we're seeing, it's able to reflect light because it's illuminated by the headlamps of the car.
So so let me get this straight. So they see a figure standing on the side of the road, and as they get closer, as they start getting closer to it and they approach the figure then walks out in front of the car, and the headlights of the car illuminate the figure in front of them.
Yep. And they immediately think, this is at this time as well, the daughter who's in the back of the car sees the figure as well. The figure, one of the interesting things is the daughter later recounts that she immediately noticed something strange about the individual. What she noticed was that the individual wasn't actually walking at ground level. She seemed to be walking slightly above ground level.
Like floating?
Kind of floating, but walking, but not actually at ground level.
So let me get this straight. So this figure is walking as if it was just walking normally.
Yep.
But when you look at the figure's feet, there's no ground below the feet. Yeah,
walking on air, basically.
Right.
Walking on air. They pull the car over because as the person crosses in front of the headlights, they notice that she looks completely wet. Whether the husband first thought that the individual, who's a female, had greasy hair, but then he noted that she looked like her clothes. She was wearing a gown, like a gown dress.
She was soaked,
which looked wet as well. And it wasn't raining at the time, and so he pulled the car over, thinking maybe this person's lost, or they've had maybe they're sick, they need some help. He gets out of the car. So does the wife. There's no one there. This person, they're on a straight road. The only place the person could have gone was down into the water.
So, they clearly see this person. They stop the car thinking that this person needs help.
Yep.
They get out of the car to help her, and as they get out of the car, the person vanishes.
She's no longer around. And they're kind of scratching their heads. Well, where did that individual go? The husband actually walks from the car, looks around the location, the local area, just around by the car, and he can't see anyone. The person that walked in front of the car was wearing light, kind of whitish, reflective clothing. So he thought, possibly, I could see them or whatever. But he didn't see anyone.
Well, see,
he immediately...
What's interesting is, though, they're driving around the shores of this huge reservoir, this huge lake, and they see a female figure walk in front of the car, which is obviously soaking wet. So they must have been thinking, well, she must have fallen in the lake or something and dragged herself out.
Yep, that's right. They thought that she'd had an accident, and she was disorientated and just wandering around, and that's why the husband thought, what do I need to do? Well, they went straight to the local police. They contacted the local police there and then, that time. Okay. The police then dispatched a small crew of officers to search the local area where they had experienced seeing this individual. They searched for a reasonable amount of time, but they didn't find anyone. They all came back, nothing, no one, nothing.
Okay, Reeves. So, now, before we continue here and really get into the meat and potatoes of this, let's take a real quick break. We'll be right back.
The MindTech Podcast is your weekly dose of tech, privacy, security, and conspiracy. Each week, the MindTech Podcast will talk about the very latest tech news and the continued threats to internet freedom. Hosted by Gareth Davis and Joe Resington. You can download and subscribe to the MindTech Podcast at mindsetcentral.com.
You're listening to Paratalk.
Hi, everyone. This is Gareth from MindsetCentral.com. Just coming on really quickly to talk to you about subscribing or donating to Mindset Central. Right now, we average about 17 brand new podcasts a month on Mindset Central, and that's for free. So you get that content for free. It always has been free, and it will continue to be free. But just take a moment to imagine the time and the effort it takes to put all that together, plus also creating, building, sustaining the website and the server costs. We're constantly finding ourselves reaching the point that sometimes is the breaking point, and we're up against that old foe of time and money. And we're hoping that with your help, we can break through this wall. Not only do we want to continue with Mindset Central, but we want to build upon it and create something very special on the internet. So please think about helping us and becoming a subscriber. By becoming a subscriber to Mindset Central, you'll have access to the subscriber section, which provides exclusive, all-new podcasts and a lot more. The subscriber section has and will continue to grow into an area that you will want to be a part of. And with monthly access priced at that of a large coffee at Starbucks. So for one coffee, you get access to the subscriber section, packed with content that is continually added to on a weekly basis. So please help us. Help us by becoming a subscriber. Thank you. And we're back. Okay, just before we left the air there, we were talking about the first part of a very strange encounter at the lake, at the reservoir. And the police had been called. They'd done a cursory investigation and search for this mysterious individual. What happens next, Reeves?
Well, the family make their way back. They carry on. They go home. And it's playing on on the husband, Chris. He's playing on his mind. Who was the person? Did I do the right thing? Why didn't the police find anybody? By chance, he was looking in the local paper a short time afterwards, and he noticed an advert in the paper. And the advert was asking locals that live in the area if they'd had any strange, out-of-the-ordinary encounters or experiences recently.
Something I thought just occurred to me, Reeves, and we haven't really talked about this, and we really should jump in here. When did this take place? Because the reservoir was created in the 1950s.
Yeah.
And the incident was the late 90s, right?
1999, yes.
Okay, gotcha.
So it happened in 1999.
So,
but this incident,
yeah.
Okay, as we're going to transport, isn't the only one.
Ah. Okay.
The advert in the paper that the husband, Chris, sees, he decides to reply to it. And he gets a call, and he says, if you've seen something, that a meeting was set up in there was a historical society, headquarters. They set a meeting up there, and all the local people that had these encounters would basically were asked to go to the historical society at a specific date and time, and what they did, they were going to take statements from whoever turned up, but they weren't going to let the people kind of mingle and talk because they wanted to see, there was some sort of study going on.
Okay.
Anyway, so in total, on the day, 12 people turned up at this, who obviously had all had encounters.
This get together to discuss these strange incidents.
Yeah, they were all, before they got together and had a chat, they were all interviewed individually.
Okay.
Basically taken into a room, asked a set amount of questions regarding various phenomenon
just
in
so
the
that
area.
There wouldn't be any contamination. So,
Exactly.
each story wouldn't bleed into somebody else's. So they try and keep each story distinct and individual.
Exactly. Now, on reflection, when they looked at the information that was given to them, and they totted it all up, all of the people that turned up to that meeting had experienced the same phenomenon in different areas, but always on the same road, but in different areas of the lake, and they'd also experienced the same person.
So
now,
this road, Reeves, completely circles the lake, goes all the way around the lake?
It travels around the outside. It's like just suppose it's a scenic view, isn't it?
Right.
It's the scenic view. It's right next to the lake. One of the individuals.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say all of the witnesses. Then they all experienced seeing the same person, the same figure, but at different points of the journey around the lake. Right.
In different areas, but they'd all travelled on the same road when they'd had their experience.
Okay.
So it was location-based. Okay. Now, Carol Gillen, who was one of the individuals that turned up to the meeting, got talking to this Chris chap, and she recounted her story. She was driving home one evening, and she had a similar experience as the family did. She thought that she saw something reflecting in the road, just off the side of the road. Wasn't sure what it was, so continued to drive at the same speed. A few minutes later, she saw a figure in the road. As she did an emergency stop because she thought it was a person that she was going to knock them down, the figure dematerialized, and she stopped, and there was nothing there. She actually witnessed whatever it was, a dematerialization.
That's exactly what I was going to ask. She actually saw it vanish in front of her eyes.
Yeah, she thought she was going to knock this individual over. But when she recounted her story and what she'd experienced, she said the same thing as the father said of the other family, that it was a young woman who looked drenched, longish hair, brown longish hair, a whitish gown on, and she looked like she'd just been in the water and just came out. So this got her thinking. She thought, what can I do to dig up a little bit of history? Because she started to think, well, I must have witnessed an apparition or a ghost or something strange phenomenon. What was here before this lake? This lake is man-made, so what was here before? So there is the remnants of a village.
At that point, though, she didn't know that there was a village there. She knew it was man-made, but she didn't know there was anything under the water.
No. So she's thinking to herself, what is here? Something must be here causing this. She laid her hands on a book. Okay, she got hold of a book. It was called Old North Somerset, and after talking to somebody, the book was given to her. But after talking to somebody, when she recounted her story to someone else, an older person who lived in the local area, they gave her the book and said, "Well, have a look at this book. It's got some history of what was here before the lake." Of course, she reads it and she learns about the village and about everyone being moved out and so forth. One of the interesting things that she found in her research was the story of a young lady called Catherine Brown, who is in the area. Okay, we're going back now before the lake existed, so we're going back
when it was the village.
Yeah, when the village was there, the village and the farms. There was a young lady that lived in the area. She tragically died. She went missing to start with, and she was found just over a day, 24 hours a day, whatever, day and night later. She was drowned in a local moat, okay, and her body was found. It was deemed an accident that she, lost her life. But one of the interesting things is that when she read the description of the girl, it was very much like the description of what she herself had seen, and also what the family had seen and these other individuals who travelled the road had seen. Because obviously, everyone else had seen the same thing. When they looked at their description of their eyewitness reports, they said a female, young, long hair, wet, the bedraggled look, so there was a connection, a very loose connection, okay? But here's the interesting thing with this is that the mother, who were obviously pre-lake here, we're talking back when the young lady's body was found, the mother who experienced one evening when the daughter was missing, on the evening where she was dead, she was missing, she was drowned. The mother witnessed her daughter in the house walking up the stairs, looked like she was just coming from a rain shower, soaking wet. When her mother went to investigate, the daughter was not in the house.
You see, this kind of reeks of authenticity, because you have so many people who are completely distinct and separate, relating very, very similar stories.
Yeah.
And describing the same individual. Mm. So this doesn't kind of a bunch of people making stuff up just for a goof. It really does sound like these people are being honest and forthright, unless, of course, they all secretly know each other and have colluded beforehand. Okay, I'll say this, you say that.
Yeah, let's make this great story up.
Which while might be possible, is also extremely unlikely.
Mm. Well, there is a consensus. Now people tend to sort of think, well, something tragically happened to this girl many years ago, back in the early, the late 40s, 50s. Something happened to this girl. She lost her life, which is fact. Okay, it's documented fact that this girl lost her life. The mother did recount that she was sure that she witnessed her daughter walking up the stairs, like she'd just come in from a massive rain shower. Yet when she went to investigate, her daughter was not there. The following morning, her daughter was found face down in a moat, drowned, and she'd been there for a number of hours. So something that she'd slipped, she'd banged her head or whatever and drowned. That was a very tragic accident. But when they piece the things together, and these individuals that have seen this, I would call it a spectre or a ghost or an apparition, that there is a connection where this individual seems to be walking towards the water. Not so much maybe walking towards the water, but maybe walking to where the village used to be.
Right, yeah. It's like she's trying to go home.
Trying to go home. Unfortunately, they're not sure. Some of the graves, you can't get there anymore. It's underwater,
Yeah.
So it's hard to validate some parts of the story. But it is true, and it is fact that this person did lose their life, and these witnesses, all of them have noted that the girl looks like she's bedraggled, wet, like she's been in a bad rainstorm, and that she seems to be making her way toward the lake.
Great story, Reeves. Let me ask you this though. So the initial story that you brought up here was in the late 1990s. Do you know if this is continuing to this day?
I haven't got any recent accounts, but I'm sure if I was to dig around, I could find some. I know that area around Chew Valley has got a lot of, not a lot, but there is paranormal happenings that go on there, and a lot of people that do research it tend to come to the conclusion that it is an area of a massive amount of water, and wherever you do get massive amounts of water, you tend to get an increase in paranormal activity. So
right.
I would be quite confident to say that this is still going on today.
Right.
But as we know, the paranormal is incredibly rare, and if you do witness something like this, you're incredibly fortunate to see something like that.
Exactly.
And remember that in the space of since the 50s, the mid 50s to 2000s, 12 people turned up at that meeting. So that's not many people. And
I think you bring up a good point that the paranormal phenomena, while being very, very real, it's also extremely rare, and it works on its own schedule.
Yeah,
I mean, you could go to that place and drive around there till the cows come home and see nothing. But I
think it's a mixture of conditions. You have to have the right conditions.
When you're least expect it.
It just happens. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people out there that are walking around, you see a ghost and you don't even know you've seen a ghost or an apparition because they look so real.
I would agree with that. That.
And I think that's what we have here, something that's replaying over and over.
All right, Reeves. Well, thank you once again. Another great episode of Paratalk, the Chew Valley Lake Encounter. Great one. Thank you, Reeves. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back very soon with more Paratalk.